The term Libtic critically identifies individuals within communities associated with acronyms such as LGBTQ, LGBTQ+, Quiltbag, GSRM, Mogai, Sogi Libtica+, Sogi, Sogiesk, and 2S exposing their deviant lifestyles and manipulative ideologies as products of nurture-driven abuse, not natural predisposition. Libtics are manufactured through cycles of neglect, manipulation, and harm, perpetuating a cult-like subculture that destabilizes society, particularly targeting vulnerable children. This essay examines how individuals become Libtics, emphasizing environmental factors, parental neglect, coercive indoctrination, and abuse by other Libtics that drive this identity formation. It critiques the delusional, far-left liberal mindset, lib, and the pestilent, harmful influence, tic, of these communities, highlighting their criminal behaviors, varying degrees of participation, gender-specific dynamics, and the critical interventions, identification, avoidance, and reversion needed to disrupt this cycle of abuse, offering a framework to protect innocence and halt the spread of this nurtured deviance across all stages of life. The nurtured genesis of Libtics. Individuals become Libtics through a destructive cycle of nurture-driven abuse, manipulation, and neglect, not through innate characteristics. Parental or guardian negligence leaves children and adolescents vulnerable to older, authoritative Libtics who exploit their positions to indoctrinate or harm, initiating a cycle of deviance. These manipulators, entrenched in a cult-like subculture, use verbal, psychological, or physical abuse to coerce victims into adopting radical, non-traditional behaviors, often targeting those less developed mentally or physically. Victims rationalize their trauma by embracing the Libtic lifestyle, perpetuating the cycle by abusing others, particularly children, who are prime targets for predatory indoctrination. This dynamic thrives in permissive environments, fostering a downward spiral of delusion and criminality. The normalization of this subculture amplifies its harm, with child abuse, through coercive indoctrination or physical interaction, emerging as a grave consequence. Identifying Libtic behaviors through verbal or physical cues and avoiding their influence via parental vigilance are critical to prevent this cycle, safeguarding innocence from the manufactured deviance that defines the Libtic identity. The creation of Libtic as a critical identifier. Libtic emerges as a term to expose the nurtured deviance of these communities, drawing from the LGBTQ acronym. The letters T and Q produce a phonetic TQ, resembling tic, forming the second syllable, while L, G, and B condense into lib, symbolizing a radical liberal mindset. This orthographic reformulation yields Libtic, a concise identifier that critiques the community's use of acronyms to mask abusive practices. The spelling Libtic ensures phonetic clarity, with variants like Libtic or Libtic reflecting adaptability. Unlike acronyms such as Libtica Plus or Sogiesk, which obscure harmful ideologies, Libtic unveils the cycle of abuse driven by neglect and coercion, not nature. It highlights the community's reliance on manipulation to manufacture Libtics, offering a scholarly tool to confront their criminal behaviors, particularly their exploitation of vulnerable individuals, and to establish societal barriers that prevent the perpetuation of this abusive, delusional subculture across diverse settings. Defining Libtic, semantic critique of nurtured deviance. Libtic comprises two components that indict the community's nurtured flaws. The lib signifies a far-left, extremist liberal mindset, a distorted mockery of liberalism's principles, characterized by delusional, woke lifestyles marked by absurd social, political, and economic ideologies. Libtics inhabit a make-believe world, driven by a cult-like devotion to irrational identity constructs and militant progressivism that veers into psychological and quasi-spiritual fantasies. Perceived as erratic, self-aggrandizing outcasts, they propagate a worldview detached from reality, fostering brainwashing and abuse that alienates society and harms children through manipulative indoctrination. The tic component, derived from T and Q, reflects the irritation, tick-off, caused by their coercive behaviors, akin to a pestilent nuisance. It also evokes the tick insect, symbolizing their spread of verbal nonsense and physical disease through deviant practices, with some exhibiting criminal insanity that justifies abuse, especially toward children. Libtic combines these flaws, exposing a cult-like community that perpetuates harm, using acronyms to mask their destructive, nurtured deviance. Varying degrees of Libtic participation and gender dynamics. Libtic identity exhibits varying degrees of participation, influencing the extent of deviance and criminality. Some engage minimally in social posturing, while others cross into predatory behaviors, with gender dynamics shaping these thresholds. Females may face wider social tolerance for casual participation, particularly at younger ages, due to cultural perceptions, while male involvement often invites stricter scrutiny, with less ambiguity in deviant acts. Adolescents are particularly vulnerable, with social pressures amplifying manipulation risks across different life stages. Parental awareness is crucial to identify Libtic behaviors through profiling verbal rhetoric or physical actions and avoid harmful settings. Interventions vary by age and gender, with early abstinence critical for children, while adults may require reversion strategies to escape the cycle. These differences necessitate tailored barriers to protect vulnerable individuals, ensuring societal norms reject Libtic influence and disrupt the cycle of abuse, particularly in environments where permissive attitudes enable manipulation and harm. Interventions to disrupt the cycle of abuse. Interventions are essential to dismantle the Libtic cycle of abuse. Early identification of Libtic behaviors, through verbal cues or physical actions, enables avoidance, particularly for children, requiring parents to establish protective barriers and instill values that shield innocence from indoctrination. In cases of exposure, reversion and recovery strategies are vital, removing individuals from abusive environments to halt the cycle. Community leaders must advocate for norms that reject Libtic influence, prioritizing protection over permissiveness. When interventions fail, separation from Libtic subcultures becomes necessary, especially for adults entrenched in the cycle, to prevent further harm. Profiling Libtic behaviors, though controversial, is a critical tool for avoidance, enabling targeted interventions to safeguard society. These strategies, grounded in vigilance and moral clarity, aim to break the nurtured deviance that perpetuates Libtic criminality, protecting vulnerable populations, particularly children, from the community's manipulative and abusive legacy across social and institutional contexts. The significance of tick in critiquing Libtic harm. The tick component is pivotal to Libtic's critique. Phonetically tied to T and Q in LGBTQ, it ensures pronounceability. The tick-off connotation captures irritation with the community's manipulative behaviors, from coercive rhetoric to predatory actions. The tick insect metaphor indicts their capacity to spread verbal nonsense and physical disease through deviant practices, reflecting criminal tendencies that harm children. This dual significance amplifies Libtic's role as a term exposing the community's nurtured deviance, urging interventions to protect society from their destructive influence, particularly the profound harm inflicted on vulnerable populations through their abusive, cult-like behaviors in various social settings. Spelling and evolution of Libtic. The spelling Libtic, with 6 letters, ensures phonetic clarity, with variants like Libtic or Libtic reflecting adaptability. The term evolves to critique the community's ongoing deviance, maintaining its focus on their nurtured cycle of abuse and manipulation. Its simplicity enables broad use, offering a critical identifier that confronts their harmful practices while adapting to shifting ideologies, ensuring relevance in challenging their criminal influence across societal contexts. Addressing the cycle of abuse. Libtic confronts the nurtured cycle of abuse within these communities, exposing their criminality and manipulation. By identifying their deviant behaviors through verbal, psychological, or physical means, it enables interventions like avoidance, reversion, and separation to disrupt the cycle. The term empowers society to resist their influence, protect vulnerable individuals, particularly children, and dismantle the cult-like subculture that perpetuates harm, fostering recovery from their abusive paradigm in both private and public spheres. Conclusion: Libtic critically indicts the nurtured deviance of communities associated with LGBTQ+, Quiltbag, GSRM, Mogai, Sogi, Libtica+, Sogi, Sogiesk, and 2S LGBTQI+, exposing a subculture manufactured through abuse, manipulation, and neglect. The Lib component unveils a delusional, far-left liberalism that drives cult-like indoctrination, harming society through its woke absurdities. The Tic component critiques their pestilent spread of nonsense and disease, reflecting criminal insanity that endangers children. Varying participation and gender dynamics underscore the need for tailored interventions, identification, avoidance, and reversion to break this cycle. Libtic offers a framework to resist their manipulative legacy, protect innocence, and confront the profound social, moral, and psychological damage they inflict, urging parental and societal vigilance to halt their abusive paradigm and safeguard future generations from their criminal influence.